Hey guys, today we're building a Mini-ITX retro gaming PC for DOS. We will cover everything. We will go over the individual components. We will put it all together. We look at the BIOS, the operating system, the drivers. All the resources will be in the description. There are download links, so you will have all the information to recreate this project or adapt it to your situation. Also, there are some benchmarks and some gameplay. So yeah, let's start this project. So one of the most important choices is the motherboard. Now, before we're gonna put everything into a case, I like and I do recommend that you build everything outside of a case. It's just a lot easier to work with. So I've installed the motherboard onto my little test bench, and let's take a closer look. This is a motherboard from MSI. It is the MS7199, and we've got a version number here 1.0. The processor is from VIA, it runs at 1 GHz. The video card is also from VIA, but it originates from S3. VIA bought out S3 at a later stage. We've got a slot here for DDR2 memory. We have one PCI slot, and this will be very important. We will be using this for a sound card. So you have a choice. You can either improve the graphics or improve the sound, and we will definitely have to improve the sound for DOS. The video card that's integrated should be quite capable. S3 has a very good track record for DOS. We've got SATA ports here, but we're going to use the ID controller because we need a CD-ROM to install games and listen to the CD audio tracks and so on, and a standard ATX power supply connector over here. And here we got all the ports. If you do shop around for one of these motherboards, do make sure that you're getting the I/O shield. If they're missing, they can be quite difficult to find, especially these ones, because we've got a TV out here and two serial ports, so that's a very unique layout. So what have we got? We've got two PS2 ports. We're going to use that for keyboard and mouse. We're going to use VGA output. It does have DVI, but that's more for Windows. TV out over here. We've got two USB ports, Ethernet, two serial ports, and audio, but we will switch off the integrated audio in the BIOS. So what I usually do at this point is make sure it actually works. So we're going to get a power supply, a monitor, a keyboard, mouse, and we're just going to turn it on and see that everything actually works. So the power supply we're using is from Corsair. It's the VS450 Total Overkill. This motherboard draws very little power, so any modern power supply, even the weakest one, should work just fine. The monitor we're using today is from Philips. It's an 18.5-inch widescreen monitor, 1366 by 768. And the reason I'm using this one is it's got a 4:3 aspect ratio button at the front, so we're gonna get a perfect 4:3 old school picture in MS-DOS. I'm also using this nifty front panel button LED device. Basically lets us turn on the machine. We've got a reset switch here, power LED, and also hard drive activity LED. We need some memory. The machine uses DDR2 memory. The smallest memory stick I found has 256 meg, so that's what we're gonna go in this project. Most games should work with that much RAM, but some games might have an issue. Something I also recommend doing is clearing the CMOS. I actually had an issue with the machine not posting and beeping, and basically you just move it across one, close it, and then you move it back, and that clears the CMOS BIOS, and now the machine is actually turning on. And for input, I'm using a PS2 keyboard and a USB Microsoft Basic mouse with one of these USB to PS2 adapters. Okay, time to find out if everything works. So let's turn on the machine and see if we're getting a screen. Okay, that was the post beep, and there's our screen. So press delete to get into the BIOS, and off we go. So that's looking pretty good. So next up, we're gonna have a look at the BIOS, and I'll show you some of the changes I'm gonna do. So that's all ready to go. System information, here we can see the CPU. Okay, it's clocked at 800 megahertz, which is fine. What else have we got here? We have some options for booting, boot sequence. We'll have a look at that later. Quick booting, I'm gonna turn that off for the time being just to have more time to see what's going on. We can change, okay, we can do some multiplier, but I'm gonna leave that default. What else can we do here? We can do some memory timings, but we're gonna leave that all at default. However, slowing down the memory timings can be beneficial if you're trying to play a speed-sensitive game. And we will do some benchmarking later in DOS with the caches turned on and off. And under integrated peripherals, there are definitely a few things I'll change. We don't need the LAN controller, for example. And we definitely don't need sound, because we're going to use a PCI sound card. But everything else, on-chip SATA, we're not going to use SATA, we're going to use IDE. We turn on bus master, that's all good. And we also don't need these 2 serial ports. And I think that's really it. Hardware monitor, we can see the temperatures, 30, 37, that's looking pretty good. There's a CPU fan header on the motherboard, but we should get away with running everything passive. Okay, so that's all good to go. And next up, we're gonna hook up some storage and then install the operating system. So for storage, we've got an IBM hard drive with 30 gig configured to master. The IDE optical drive is configured to slave, and we're using a single IDE cable to connect to the IDE interface on the motherboard. And the final piece to the puzzle is the sound card. We're using the Oriel Vortex 2. This is one really awesome Windows 98, 95 PCI sound card, but it also has excellent DOS compatibility. It has one flaw, which is the OPL3 emulation sounds pretty bad, but everything else it does really well. So I'd rather have a card that actually works with games and outputs some sound, even though it might not be the best. It is Sound Blaster Pro compatible and also very good. And we're going to use a wavetable board, the Dream Blaster S2, a very affordable wavetable board for general MIDI. And that's it. So DOS games should work just fine with this sound card. I haven't used it in a lot of VIA motherboards yet, so we will see what the compatibility is like. Although this is a DOS machine, we will be using Windows 98 SE. It's got MS-DOS 7.1 with FAT32 support, so we can use the entire 30 gig for our storage. Also, we can just copy games and drivers with the USB thumb drive. That's what we're going to do. And also, the DOS drivers are easier to set up from within Windows. So basically, we're just going to use Windows because it's easier to set everything up, but we will not be using Windows later on. We will just be using DOS. So we can see the hard drive and the optical drive showing up here. All we need to change is the boot order so that we boot from the CD-ROM first and then from the hard drive. And that should be good to go. So the first thing I do is run fdisk and I delete all the existing partitions, and we're just going to create a new DOS primary partition just like that. So that's all done almost, and we're just going to restart our machine one more time and then format that partition. And to do that, we just type in format C/S, which will make the C drive bootable. Okay, that's all done. Let's give it a name. Let's call it Mini-DOS. Press enter and off we go. And now we just gotta install Windows 98. Okay, we're almost done. Windows 98 is installed. And next up, we're gonna copy a few files off the USB thumb drive. Alrighty, so let's have a look. We're just gonna open two Explorer windows so we can put things side by side. There we go. So here's my USB, sorry, that was the optical drive. Here's my USB thumb drive with all the folders, and here's my C drive. So the first thing we're gonna do is the MS-DOS mode super easy. I'll link all the stuff down below. So the drivers goes onto the C drive, and the restart shortcut that goes onto the desktop so we can restart. But there's more to copy, so let's go back up here. We have DOS bench. These are DOS benchmarks, so we're definitely going to run some benchmarks and see what this machine can do. The USB interface is unfortunately only USB 1. There might actually be USB 2 drivers, but I haven't installed them. I'm not going to bother. We're just going to wait it out. There you go. So that was the DOS benchmark. Next up, we're going to copy setmul over here. This is a little tool that will let us disable the level 1 cache and basically slow our machine down. And of course we need this one. This is the DOS mixer for the Vortex 2. So we have working CD audio as well as wavetable, and a bunch of games, DOS games. Okay, so the games are almost done copying over. The only other thing we're going to copy are the Vortex drivers, and I'm just going to copy them onto the desktop. Okay, that's all done. And now the only driver we're going to install, and there are a few unknown devices here, is the sound card. This one here, multimedia audio device. And we're going to click on install driver, next, display list of drivers, other devices, have disk, browse, and we're going to point to the desktop under Windows, desktop, Vortex 2, Win9X, English, and there are drivers. So we press OK, and that should install all the drivers. Okay, so the drivers have installed. Let's have a quick look at the resources. Let's see what interrupt we're using. Interrupt 10. That's awesome. That means interrupt 7 is available for the Sound Blaster Pro. So we click on resources here. Okay, it picked interrupt 7. However, there's also DMA 1 and 3. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shut the machine down into MS-DOS mode, and we have a look what resources the DOS driver uses. So we can see it here. Address 220, that's good, interrupt 7, but DMA 3, we don't want DMA 3. So we type in exit to get back into Windows. So we go back into the device manager and onto our sound card, Sound Blaster Pro emulation, resources. We untick this box, do not use automatic settings. We change the basic config to the last one, number 7, and we got address 220, interrupt 7, DMA 1, and 388. Okay, we press OK, yes, and it should ask us to reboot. If not, we're just going to reboot ourselves. And there you go, we can now see interrupt 7, DMA 1, so that's perfect. Okay, that's all done. Let's try our MS-DOS mode super easy shortcut. So the machine reboots and we should get our familiar DOS startup options. Let's go with the first one. So we should have working optical drive, working mouse, and also the sound driver. Yep, we can see that here. It's all ready to go. So now, seeing that everything works, it's time to put all the parts into the Mini-ITX case, and then we're going to do some benchmarking and later on check out a bunch of games. And this is the case we're using. It is from A1. It's got a 5¼ inch bay here for the optical drive. We've got some front headers for USB, which we might actually use, and that's what it looks like. On the rear, we've got a little cooling fan here. So let's remove those thumb screws and we have a look what's inside. And that's what it looks like from the inside. Here we've got the power supply in the front, all the cables inside here, one slot for the PCI, for the sound card, front panel connectors, so all fairly standard stuff. The hard drive will go in this bay and the optical drive will go up the top. So I'm not going to film every step. I'm just going to do the build off camera and we will be back when everything is done. Okay, we're pretty much done. So we've got the power connections for the optical drive and for the hard drive. The ID ribbon cable is all connected, the front panel cables. And let's have a look from the other side. We can see a little bit better what's going on here. There's a fan in the back that's connected to the motherboard. So the only thing we need to add now is so the only thing left to do is install our sound card. So let's see if we can squeeze it in. There you go, that's a snug fit, but it went in there. So let's just put in a screw here. And that's it, we're good to go. I almost forgot the CD audio cable. So one goes onto the sound card here, and then the other end goes into our optical drive. It's got a plug here at the back. Okay guys, so here we've got the finished machine. Let's power it on. All the front panel cables, they are connected correctly. The LEDs are working. And the optical drive also works, but it doesn't quite go back. If you close it, you kind of have to hold that down, but otherwise it's working fine. So what we're going to do next is run some MS-DOS benchmarks. The DOS bench program you can find on my website. Just look down in the description. I'll put all the download links to everything I use in this project down below. So first up, we're just going to run the benchmarks without fast vid that would actually boost performance. So what have we got? We've got 282 in Chris's benchmark. We got 172 in PC Player benchmark. We've got 124 FPS in Doom and 128 in Quake. And increasing the resolution to 640 by 480 in Chris's 3D bench, we're now getting 73. In PC Player benchmark, we're now getting 40, and in Quake, we are getting 23. Now, after I ran fast vid, which will boost performance, I also have done videos on this showing how to use it on AMD systems and Intel processors and so on. The scores go up quite a bit. Chris's 3D bench goes up to 348. PC Player benchmark is now at 193. We've got Doom, doesn't improve much, it's on 127 now, and Quake improves to 139. And we can also see quite an improvement at 640 by 480. Chris's 3D bench goes up to 168 now, which is a huge boost. PC Player benchmark is up to 85 now, and Quake at 640 by 480, we're looking at 48 FPS. The other thing we can do is slow down machine with the setmul utility. I've got the latest version here, and on some processors you can even change the multiplier, but it's telling us it's unsupported. We can only disable the level 1 cache, and we do that by typing setmul L1D, pressing enter, and now level 1 cache is disabled. Unfortunately, performance is extremely limited. This is the slowest machine I've ever seen with the level 1 cache disabled. This is the intro of Wing Commander, and it's a slideshow. You can kind of hear the audio. It's all chopped up and very stuttery. And look, this is so slow. It's less than a 286. I don't even know how slow this is. I couldn't run the benchmarks. That took just so long. No way I would sit that long on the machine. So unfortunately, this did not work out at all. So this just means the machine is quite fast for a DOS machine, and we are not stuck, but we are mostly limited to games that will run fine on a fast machine. So games like Wing Commander or Test Drive 3, unfortunately, will not work on this machine. So we built the machine, we had a look at the performance. It's time to check out some games. I'm gonna swap the microphone, and we're just gonna play a bunch of games. So there you have it, guys. This is our Mini-ITX DOS gaming machine. Any questions, do leave them down below. I'll try my best to answer them. But otherwise, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like it, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, like or dislike the video, the usual YouTube stuff. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon with another one.